Welcome, team. I'm Dr. Miranda, and I am your facilitator for the MBA 640 course. I'm really excited to have you aboard. We have, I think, a very interesting 10 weeks ahead of us. This can be a very fun course. This can be a very exciting course, but also it can be a very challenging course. We have several disciplines to learn, and all of them include some type of qualitative or quantitative analysis. Now, for those of you who are not uh, has mathematically inclined or financially inclined, do not despair. There will be no gnashing of teeth or wailing. And don't reach out for the nearest exit door. I had folks who had no financial background and were very mathematically not inclined, who managed to actually pass this course with a good grade. Uh, they worked very hard. They completed their assignments on time, and they accepted good feedback, and they were very diligent. So there is a path to victory for those of you who have issues with finances, economics, and whatnot. But that's par for the course, okay? And we will be talking about these concepts as we deepen into the course itself. But what is this course really about? I want you to imagine yourself, you know, as an executive member of a great corporation, and of course, to our exercise at the end, our final project. Of course, there are three major companies, publicly traded companies. Imagine yourself as a member, executive member, and executive of one of these companies, and you are charged with for doing a study on a outward expansion, foreign expansion. Okay, and so you are tasked with doing the research, doing the qualitative analysis. You are also observing the global economics and also economics that are specific to the region which you would choose. You will analyze all of these points of data, and at the end, you will come, good or not, for you to expand. Well, in this exercise, the answer will be yes. And so you will have to make a case positive on why you will undertake this foreign expansion for your company. It's a capital budgeting project. It's very exciting. It's a project that at the end of the course, many of you, I would predict, um, that you will come out of this course with a greater appreciation on how executives make decisions. So at one point, this course is about leveraging financial data, examining economic trends, examining public behavior and consumer behavior, looking at political components, looking at tariffs, looking at international business, looking at the global economic environment, a lot of analysis, a lot of research, um, you know, to do what? To show you, kind of give you a window into the world of how executives make decisions. All of us make decisions in our lives, right? Big decision, little decision. Um, and there's always a basis for those decisions. So this is another area for this course, is that it teaches you the process of decision making. Of course, there's no coursework. It says, okay, this is how you make a decision. You're going to make decision based on certain triggers. You're going to make decision based on certain parameters. Now, you can steer your company towards total disaster, or you can steer your company towards a foreign expansion, which will be magnificent. It will write the next chapter of your company. So this is, in essence, a simulation. Simulations are good things, right? Because you can be forgiven for much trespasses in simulations because they are simulations. However, these simulations on the rubrics, on the milestone assignments, on the final project, I would ask that you treat them very seriously, that you approach these assignments, which are all dependency. They have points of dependency on previous assignments. So one assignment builds on the other. Treat them with utmost seriousness. I don't mean not having fun while you're doing it, but seriousness in the point of view is that you are now will take ownership of this process. You will take ownership of the company's future. In essence, you are the key player for this company. So you're going to take this expansion project very seriously. And why is it important to have that type of mentality? Because it prepares your mind, it psychs your mind up, right? For those of you who are fans of literature, uh, I enjoy sci-fi. Yes, I'm a Trek fan. Yes, I'm also a Star Wars fan, and I like the old stuff. You know, Isaac Asimov, Orson Scott Card. Um, but I also like the zombie uh, literature genre. And one of the interesting things that you can always learn from anything, right? But Max Brooks' World War Z, that there's a section in there where the new American army, boy, they've been built and they are ready to take on this zombie horde. And what do they do? They prepare to take ownership, right, of the battlefield and every point, uh, uh, to ready themselves. But one thing that really captured my attention is that they psych themselves up. They put this, loud music on, and they psych themselves. They are ready. They are, stealing, getting some mojo on, right? And this is the type of mentality that we approach these milestones and we approach the final project and the assignments, where you psych yourself up. I have seen students that when they take that approach of psyching themselves up, of really looking at this as almost a real life simulation event, that they actually do better. There's just some psychological component to it where you actually immerse yourself into the experience, and so you will take greater ownership of these assignments. Okay, so it's a really great course. I really believe you're going to enjoy it. Again, it's like anything in life, you get out of it what you put into it. I am dedicated to your success. I am dedicated to you passing the course. I'm dedicated. I'm there. I provide constructive feedback in multiple levels. You will see that. I will explain that in later videos because I think it's important for you to understand how I provide the feedback to you. I'm a strong believer in grading your assignments. There are dependencies on future assignments, on the assignments that have been turned in. And of course, it's a lot of work for me. And I work other jobs as well. This is not just uh, my only gig, so to speak. But I am dedicated to you. I'm dedicated to your success. Okay? Throughout the course, I'll be putting out more videos. I'll be putting out a deep rubric analysis for each of the milestones and final project. I will put videos of that come from other sources to help you understand the financial principles. Yes, there's a lot of work, but I believe there's a lot of fun. And I believe also that you're really going to enjoy this course, right? Let's work together, you and I. Let's join hands. Let's think of me as your mentor throughout this 10-week process, right? I am that guy that you go to in the company, so to speak. You're asking for advice. I'm not a confrontational person. I'm not adversarial at all. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to help guide you through this process and to help add to your success in your academic trajectory here at SNHU. Okay, so now um, let's go into the Module 1 review, okay, for uh, uh, for this week. Okay, now this is a special week as far as scheduling is concerned, and I will be sharing with you the scheduling and assignment expectations for this week. Given the holiday seasons that we of course are approaching, and of course throughout the years, for those who actually get this video in other sections, the same will apply. Now, let's talk about Module 1. Okay, this is the startup week. This is the fantastic week. This is where you begin to really flourish. First impressions are always very important. So you want to always do your best, just as I am attempting to really do my best by, setting forth the expectation, releasing these videos, and I think going above and beyond to serve your needs as a valuable colleagues, because you're not my students. You are valuable colleagues and team members in this process, because I respect you not only as an individual, but I also respect you as a fellow uh, professional, even though we may not be in the same industry, but we are professionals. Okay, so we're going to go into Module 1, and from this point on, it's a very deep analysis of what we're going to be doing Module 1. Okay, um, and so right now I am going to go into Module 1 there. Now, this is, of course, the first week for you and me on Brightspace, okay, our new interface. Um, it does take some, getting used to it. There are some trainings available. But we will go through it together. It's going to be a learning environment for both you and I as far as this new interface. Now, we've received training on our end, and of course, there's been a lot of effort to also familiarize our valued students, our colleagues, with this particular module. Now, Module 1, it's the beginning, okay? Now, in this module, you will learn an organization's financial performance and health. So the focus for this module is going to be on the financial health and performance of the organization. Now, we're going to explore the variety of factors that influence the success of the organization. Okay. Now, although quantitative data is essential, a proper organization evaluation also requires qualitative information about the industry, the economic environment, people, and technology. What this is really saying is numbers are important, but also there are other things in life, particularly in business, that add to the numbers. So we have to understand all of these particular variables, right? Not only the numbers in a business, okay, but we have to understand other external variables such as geopolitics, political events, consumer behavior, consumer preference, political upheavals, or natural events. That could be either positive or could be or negative. Okay, so there's a lot to learn. Okay, and a lot of things that will impact, of course, the um, um, the business environment. Now, the learning objectives for this week is identify the key factors about an organization and its environment that affects its performance and health. There are key things, key variables in the organization, the environment of the organization within the organization that does affect the performance and health of the company. We're also going to access financial statements, financial ratios, including growth rates and trends. We'll have a look at that. We're also going to describe the broad key qualitative factors about an organization, its environment to improve decision making. Again, going back to one of the goals of this course is to help you understand how to make decisions based on the quantitative and qualitative variables that do affect the company in meaningful ways. Okay. Now, reading and resources, by now you should have access to your textbook online. Okay. The textbooks, Financial Literacy for Managers, Finance and Accounting for Better Decision Making, chapters 1 and 2. Okay. Chapter 1 is a review of the 3 basic financial statements. Chapter 2 describes how business events affect an organization's main financial statements. And Chapter 3 describes how managers can use financial statements to identify issues and make decisions. This is a bedrock foundation for those of you who are not financially minded. Okay, this is the core of the course for you. This is a building block, so you really have to become very knowledgeable of these particular disciplines. So take some time, okay? Go to chapters 1, 2, and 3 and make sure that you suck the marrow out of that bone, okay? Also, there's another textbook, Financial Literacy for Managers, Finance and Accounting for Better Decision Making. There's an appendix, more on the cash flow statement, the indirect method. This is, of course, optional. Most students and even financial managers find the indirect method cash flow statement very confusing. This appendix provides some clarification. Okay. Now, we're going to look into the discussions, okay, and we're going to also look at the final project review and company selection, but more on that in a few moments, okay? Let's look into the module overview. This is going to be very important. Again, this is just an overview of the things that are covered on module 1. Again, I'm stressing the point that this is just an overview, but it's very important for you to get this under your belt. Evaluating an organization's financial performance and health requires what? Studying not only financial reports, but also the organization's strengths and weakness, its industry and economic environment. What does this mean for us? You have to become knowledgeable of that there are external and internal variables or forces that really have an impact on your company, either for good or bad, right? Either positive or negative. The the executive or manager that doesn't really understand or have an inkling, a notion of these external factors, it can really be a liability to a company, okay, particularly in business. A solid executive, a solid manager, a solid business person, and is one that has their ear to the ground in terms of the internal structure, organizational behavior, makeup, the financial structure of the firm, but also this person has a firm understanding of the outside world, right? Because understanding that threats, that challenges, the influences that can affect your bottom line both come from within the company and with, the external factors. So, number 1, key financial statements produced by most businesses and other organizations are the income statement, cash flow statement, and balance sheet. Okay. Publicly traded companies must publicly disclose these statements from previous quarters and years, along with explanatory notes and commentary. Now, your future assignments, okay, this is where you're going to mine the data from, right? You're going to select one of the 3 companies. We're going to discuss that, okay, a little bit in depth later. But listen, this is very important. You are going to mine your data, okay, from the, excuse me, from the income statement, cash flow statement, and balance sheet. Those are available publicly. Okay, those are posted. Most of the time, they are posted on the company's website. You're going to have to go in there and mine that data. Look for the data. It's going to be there. Okay. Um, Some of them have actually are almost brand new, like Alteryx. Okay, they will not have a historical in terms of 3 years. All right, but you will be able to basically use what you have, and project forward. So that's one of them. The other ones is, although they may not have 2 or 3 years of available data on their website, they may have that information with the SEC filings. So you can look for those. One of the things about this course is that you're going to see the power of being very proactive in looking for information. Because remember, information is one of the most valuable assets for a company. And companies that, particularly executives and leaders in the companies that understand how to look for the information and how to retrieve information and then how to analyze that information and leverage that information for the good of the company are executives who will be in very high demand. Okay. Now, but within most businesses and other organizations, these and many other financial reports, including much more detail, are used extensively to analyze the past and try to forecast and plan the future. We will have later. We're going to look into projection, how to project, future earnings. We're going to learn that, and there's going to be a financial modeling spreadsheet assignment that you're going to have to do. Okay, which it's going to explain. You're basically going to project. Learn how to make projections for your company. So this is a very important thing. So again, you're going to use the data that you mined from the company. Okay, you're going to use past performance to try to see how the performance will be in the future. 2, privately owned businesses are not required to publish financial information, but most produce that information anyways, following proper accounting rules. Why? They do it for their own internal management, but also because banks, potential equity investors, potential partners, and even major suppliers and customers may want to see them. Okay, so basically, even though they may not be public, but that information is very useful information for the internal running of the company and also for potential partners. Although there are important differences in accounting rules among different countries, yes, there are far more similarities than differences, and these have existed for many decades. Accountants and financial managers in North America, Europe, Africa, and Asia can and do work well together. So this is a very happy family when it comes to working within the financial and economic field. All right, now financial valuation involves, among other things, examining various ratios, and you're going to use ratios and trends to help managers and investors make better decisions. Again, going back to one of the reasons for this course is to help you get an appreciation of what, how executives make decisions using data. Probably the most common financial ratio is simply year-over-year percentage change. Okay, there are other ratios, but this is a fairly normal one. In many cases, data is adjusted to separate the effects of non-operating and one-time items such as currency rate changes from underlying performance. One can examine ratios and trends of historical results, future projections, or both. And of course, there are other ratios out there, but this is a fairly common one that's used. It is tempting to focus too much on the numbers when you are evaluating an organization's financial performance and health. But think of it this way, those numbers don't really tell us the answers. Instead, they tell us what questions to ask. Now, I will agree to a certain extent in this. Numbers for a business is really 90%. What do you mean 90%? I'm saying that if you don't understand your numbers, if you don't really understand what the numbers are telling you, this is really going to put your business in a disadvantage. Okay, so this course is really about looking at the numbers, analyzing the numbers, but we also analyze qualitative variables such as political impacts, right? Um, structure of a country, and how they relate with business, taxation and whatnot. And also, employee dynamics and all these things really have also an impact on your business, but it's really, really important, okay, to focus on your numbers. Now, of course, here, this is saying, well, it's tempting just to focus on the numbers. That's not really what it's saying. What it's saying that you have to focus on the numbers, but also there are other variables to consider. But what I'm saying also is that I'm agreeing in part with this. It's important to really focus on the numbers also. But look, don't become target fixated, right? Look, I'm a former student pilot, and I can tell you one of the things that we train for is not to become target fixated. What does that mean? Sometimes you can focus so intently on one aspect of the flight that you disregard everything else. And I had it happen to me before, and I haven't been in an airplane cockpit ever since because it really freaked me out. I'm landing the airplane, okay, just going down. It's beautiful. It's a textbook landing. Not a problem. Everything looks great. Weather is a beautiful Florida weather. But you know what happened? For some reason, I became fixated on the runway. But just not on the runway, on a certain portion of that runway. That's where I wanted to put that airplane. But I disregarded everything else. And it could have ended up in a very bad thing. Very bad day for myself and others. And from that point on, I decided, well, this is not quite for me. Okay, after having hours and hours and hours of flight put into and flight education. But again, what it's really saying, don't become too target fixated on just one variable, right? Just kind of walk your way around the other variables of the business. Let's talk about financial statements, cash flow, and taxes. An income statement, sometimes called P&L, or profit and loss statement, shows an organization's revenue, the expenses, and income for one or several specific time periods, such as full year 2015. Revenue is sometimes shown by product type, operating division, or geographic market. Expenses are often shown by components such as cost of goods sold, or depreciation, or income taxes. Income or earnings are often shown in total or per share EPS. Okay. A cash flow statement, and again, this is going to be huge, guys. It's going to be huge on milestone 1, 2, and 3. Okay, actually, let me go. Yes, all done. It shows an organization's cash flows, cash inflows and outflows, sometimes called cash sources and usages, generally grouped into 3 main buckets: operating cash flow, investing, and financing. Realistically, most publicly disclosed cash flow statements are difficult to analyze because they obscure as much as they reveal for various reasons. Okay. Another type of cash flow statement, often used internally, groups cash flows into receipts and disbursements. Although in some ways this format is more illuminating, it is difficult to relate to the income statement. Again, cash flow can be mysterious. Cash flow could be something from another galaxy. No. Companies have a way of hiding information that they don't want people to see. They have a way of doctoring, not really changing the information, but just kind of fudging the number, fudging a little bit, changing descriptions, changing categories. The information will be there. Most of the time, they are very realistic and they're very noble and honest, transparent about this. But there are reasons why sometimes companies will choose not to be very forthcoming with their cash flow. Okay, it could be that the company has experienced certain issues, right? It could be that they have adopted certain standards and practices that work for their industry and work for their company well. Okay. Again, you're going to have to be very, very careful looking how the cash flow statement works, and this is going to be at the heart of these expansions going forward. So one thing that I say is make sure you know how to project and the other one, you understand cash flow statement as well. Now, a balance sheet is a snapshot of the organization's assets, liabilities, and equity at a specific point in time, such as December 31, 2015. Now, okay, it's like a picture. It's like a snapshot in time. You know, people say, well, they'll never invent a time machine. I said, it's already been invented. It's called a balance sheet, right? You want to see how the company did in certain, period of time in the past? Go back, take your time machine, and the time machine is your balance sheet. Look at it. You're going to be able to glean a lot of good information from that. But alas, we don't have a time machine into the future. That's done through projections and is somewhat cloudy, right? Boy, where's Doctor Who when you need him? Okay. It is harder to intuitively understand that the income statement, but it has been said that the balance sheet never lies. Well, well let's just say that depends on the honesty of the people putting the information together, right? Financial problems are more likely to be revealed by careful scrutiny of balance sheets than any other financial statements. Okay. Now, a publicly traded company will disclose not only these statements but also extensive notes and a commentary. Now, these are very important because some of you are actually going to be looking into making some very big assumptions about your company, selected company, and how that's going to go forward. Okay. So you're going to have to, kind of mine that data if needed. Now, financial analysts will often duplicate these reports and add columns and rows for year-over-year percentage growth rates, variances between actual results in the budget, and all sorts of other financial ratios. Okay. Now, organizations use many more financial reports internally to provide greater detail, different ways of slicing and dicing the information, and additional subtotals and calculations. For example, sales pipeline reports help forecast revenue by showing the status of various sales leads and sales negotiations, right? Backlog reports also help forecast revenue by showing customer orders that have not yet been fulfilled. Various staffing reports show employees, contract worker levels, and compensation costs in different divisions, functions, and locations. Various project reports show status and costs for various projects to develop new products and services and for internal projects such as updating a computer system. Okay, so these, of course, are things that go into that financial report internally. Okay, sometimes it has greater details, sometimes not. Most of the multinational companies are very highly detailed in their financial reports. Okay, but don't expect that type of granularity, from smaller companies. Okay, and sometimes companies will only, basically the less information you give, sometimes that's how, the motto is. The less information you give, the less they have to hang you with, particularly when dealing with the regulatory agencies and federal government, right? Analysis of financial statements. Although cash flows are more important, businesses and investors focus more on accounting measurements such as revenue, operating income, operating margin, earnings per share, and the price-earnings ratio, as they are more readily available. They're also easier for most non-finance people to understand. Additionally, they focus not just on the absolute numbers, but on the year-over-year growth rates. A growth rate is a type of ratio, such as this year's revenue divided by last year's revenue. Okay. Now, excuse me. Okay. The beautiful thing about this is that the professionals over many years, they have developed these intuitive practices that actually help non-finance people understand what is happening. Okay. That's what is really telling us here, the analysis of these financial statements, okay, is that they are geared towards providing information in a very intuitive way, okay, in a way that can be really understanding without causing, heart attacks or strokes, okay. And so these are wonderful ways, okay, that people who are not very versed in finance can really get a good understanding of the dynamics of these financial statements and how to analyze them. Now, business and investors frequently look at adjusted measurements and ratios. What is adjusted? Adjusted means removing the effects of non-operating and one-time items such as foreign currency movements and effects of acquisitions and divestitures. Removing such unusual or one-off effects provide what is sometimes called underlying or organic performance. Basically, it's cleaning things up a bit, right? Removing certain things that only happen once, okay? Or certain things that, an event that happened and it could skew the rest of the performance data, you know. So, the best way to do is that clean that up and provide an adjusted financial statement. And that's good. That's no problem with it, just as far as it is understood that this is adjusted, okay? An organization's past and projected financial performance is important not only to investors, but also to bankers and other lenders, suppliers, also called vendors, distributors, major customers, potential partners, and employees. For example, if SNHU were considering utilizing a cloud computing service, they would want to know if the provider is going to be around for the next few years. Okay, so it's important for us to understand the financial health of the company, and we do that by looking at the financial statements. Okay, now what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to have a discussion about the financial information discussion. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I am going to actually take a detour because I am going to actually post a really deep analysis, including documentation for this. I'm going to post it on the announcements today, and I'm also going to post it in the discussion board interface. Okay, this is going to be a very important discussion. I also am going to talk about, what is considered a substantive discussion. I will provide to you a document, a set of questions that will take you to the process of how to provide a really great substantive discussion. But for this, you're going to need the Harvard, the HBR case. This comes from Harvard, okay? And this is, of course, located in your custom textbook case study bundle. And we're going to look at the organization New Earth Mining, and this is going to be very important, a really cool, wonderful discussion. And again, we're going to have to use a lot of numbers, okay? And also, look at the discussion rubric on how I'm going to actually be measuring the discussion, okay? And then, of course, I'm going to make a separate video, which is the final project review and company selection, because I want to go into a little bit deeper on that, okay? So it doesn't make this a very, long video. But again, welcome to class. Really looking forward to a really fantastic time together. We're going to have a really good time. And anyways, thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I look forward to getting together, getting to know you more and participate in your success here at SNHU. You'll have